He's one of the most influential guitarists of the last 30 years and part of one of the most endearing and innovative songwriting partnerships of the last 30 years. No, not me, of course. It's Johnny Marr. Greetings, folks, and welcome to another one of my videos. This is another book review, and today's book that I'm reviewing is a book called Set the Boy Free, and it's by Johnny Marr. You see it there. For those of you who don't know who Johnny Marr is, he's most famously known for being the guitarist and partnership songwriter of the Smiths, of course, and that's certainly how I got to know about Johnny Marr. So I'm not going to go too much into the detail of my love of the Smiths, but suffice to say, I had the quiff. I didn't go as far as the hearing aid, but I was very, very influenced by the Smiths and very affected by Morris's lyrics, and just the whole music really sort of turned me on to what's possible in guitar music, not just guitar music, but any music, and the kind of the humour, the depth, the rawness, the honesty, and just the musical genius that was going on in those early Smiths recordings is still something that sits with me today and inspires me today. And there's a lot of great stories about how that came about in this book. But what I want to talk about today in this book is about 3 things that I got from that I learnt from this book about success. So, number 1, Johnny Marr. Johnny Marr was completely focused at a very early age. He was focused. He knew exactly what he wanted to do. He wanted to play the guitar. He had a very, very clear vision. He also predicted that he would, the first album, how it would look, what it would be called, who would they be signed to, specifically, which record label they'd be signed to, and how he would live his life. He'd record this album, he'd get famous, and he'd travel the world, and that's what he said. Well, he was still a teenager, and it all came true. So that just shows you, if you believe about, if you're into things like The Secret, if you're into psychology, if you're into spirituality, then it doesn't talk about it in that sort of sense. It doesn't talk about that I had this spiritual thing. He just talks about that's how he used to think. And what came across very strongly in this, for me, is he was absolutely obsessed with music, obsessed with creating his vision, and he was driven, and that's what made it happen. It's as simple as that. And so if you're thinking of getting something off the ground, if you want to manifest something, then you've got to be obsessed about it. It seems to be that what I've read, not just in this book, but a lot of other books, the common theme seems to be an obsession. You have to be obsessed about it to get good enough, to drive it enough, to make it work, and to stick with it when everyone else is dropping out. And that's what I got from this very highly focused guy, and continues to be so further on through the book. He seems to be very focused and has a very clear vision of what he wants to do. He was on the scene. So you've all heard the song by James Brown called Sex Machine, right? Well, there's a line in that song. It says, "Stay on the scene like a sex machine." And if you want to be a successful musician, you've got to be on the scene. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean you've got to be visible. You've got to be working with other people, collaborating, constantly collaborating. You've got to be up to date with what's going on in your area, not necessarily globally, although you can do that now with the internet. Obviously, when Johnny Marr was a kid, there wasn't any internet, so he was on the scene in Manchester. He knew all the major players, all the people, all the artists, all the fashion guys, all the record guys, all the people who were producing. He knew all those people, or they knew him, and he was on the scene, and that's how his success grew because he knew so many people. His network was massive. And when things were happening, he was part of it. And that's what got him success. And that's what continued to drive his success. And we'll talk a little bit about that in the next point. But also wanted to say is, of course, this famous collaboration with Morrissey, he could have gone, well, I'm going to write the songs, I'm going to be the front man. And how far would he have got? Would he have created the Smiths on his own? Probably not. If he did, it probably wouldn't be as good as it has been. So he was very clear about teaming up with Morrissey. He was obsessed about working with Morrissey to the point where he went and knocked on his door and said, you know, I want you to work with you. And that's how direct he was about it. It wasn't like a chance thing that happened. He made it happen. And of course, the rest is, as they say, is history. So you've got to be on the scene if you want to be successful, not just in music, but in anything, but particularly in music, I think. The third thing that I took from this book and what I learned about Johnny Marr's success was that he kept on going. His perseverance. When no one believed in it, when no one thought it was going to happen, he kind of proved them wrong. And even when the Smiths broke up, he could have quite easily sulked about that or traded off that name or just sort of, you know, been all forever known as just the guitarist in the Smiths and kind of dined out on that for years. But he didn't. Even when the Smiths were still dissolving, he was off doing other things. He was working with Barney Summer, he was working with Chrissie Hynde from the Pretenders, he was touring, he was working with other musicians, he was experiencing different things, and that led into other things, and he just kept evolving. So he was never off the scene. He was always kept collaborating and kept moving forward, even though his biggest success to date had dissolved. And there's a number of reasons. It talks about his side of it in the book as to why that happened, and of course Morrissey has got the other side. But to me, all that's irrelevant. The most important thing is he kept on going, and to this day keeps evolving, keeps working with new musicians, new artists, and keeps pushing it there. And he still recognises, he still sings Morrissey songs, he still sings Smith songs. When I saw him at the Moseley Folk Festival a couple of years ago, he sang a couple of Smith songs because he wrote them. He co-wrote them, and they're brilliant songs. So why isn't he going to do that? But he's not trading off that name. He's just including them as part of his thing, and he's moved on and he's done lots of other things since. So they're the three takeaways that I'd say from this book. The three things that I've learned, and maybe you can implement from these. 1, be completely focused and obsessed about your vision. 2, you've got to be on the scene. You've got to stay on the scene, collaborate, network, get to know people. 3, you've got to keep going even after things happen, like the breakup of a significant band. Don't use that excuse to give up and just to throw the towel and go, oh, it's all finished. Move on, get somebody else, try something else, keep trying something different, experiment with something else, but keep moving forward to your vision, which is personal to you. Whatever your vision is, what do you want to do? What do you want to make happen? And then just keep moving forward and taking steps towards that. So I hope that's been helpful, guys. This is a great read if you're a Smiths fan, if you're into guitar music, and even if you're not particularly into the Smiths or Johnny Marr. It's a great biography about how to make it in the music industry, I guess. But this is like, he doesn't talk about specifics about building YouTube followers or anything like that, but he talks about his passion for guitar music, and there's some really great stories in here, anecdotes, and I love all that kind of stuff. So check it out if you're into that kind of stuff, and if you want to know about what I thought about the Rich Dad Poor Dad, then you can check that book out as well. I did a review about that, and you can see the link here. So that's all from me, guys. Stay tuned. I mean, some more videos, more book reviews, and let me know if there's a book review a book that you want me to review. Send it to me. Let me know. I'm always open to new things, always open to new ideas and reading about. I particularly like autobiographies. So if there's any ones that you haven't or want to know more about or want me to review, then drop me a button down there. Drop me a message down there. Hit the like button, and please share with any of your friends. Anybody who likes the Smiths, or if you know Johnny Marr, share it with him. As if you're going to do that. All right, well, that's all for me. I'm going to get back to writing and recording and reading, and see you on the next video.